Hello, fight fans. Thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Jon Jones shares his thoughts on Francis Ngannou's performance against Tyson Fury. Next, UFC Austin official with Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan, Dan Hooker versus Bobby Green as 5-round fights. Moving on, Chael Sonnen explains how Francis still fumbled the bag by not accepting a fight with Jon Jones. Next, Ariel Helwani destroys Dana White in a rant, calling him out for all the lies spouted in recent months about Francis. Additionally, Demetrius advises Francis to walk away from MMA following Tyson Fury fight. Jon Jones has shared his thoughts on Francis Ngannou's split decision loss to Tyson Fury on Saturday. Jones and Ngannou have been linked to a fight for quite some time, as Jones talked about moving up to heavyweight for years. When he finally did make the move to heavyweight, Francis was a free agent, and the UFC couldn't come to terms with him, and he ended up signing with a PFL. Along with signing with the PFL, Francis ended up securing a boxing match with Tyson Fury. Meanwhile, Jon Jones claimed the UFC Heavyweight Championship in March, securing the title Francis vacated by submitting Cyril Gane. Despite the fact the two of them have taken shots at one another in the past, Jon Jones took to Twitter to heap praise on Francis Ngannou for how he fought Tyson Fury. During a recent Q&A session, one fan asked for his opinion on the Francis versus Fury fight. Here's what he had to say in response. "I thought he did great. I'm glad the fight was competitive. Opened so many doors for everyone in the future." The UFC is headed back to Austin, Texas, and 2 5-round lightweight fights sit atop the bill. Beneil Dariush versus Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker versus Bobby Green will headline a UFC Fight Night card December 2nd at Moody Center. UFC CEO Dana White officially announced the card on Twitter. The event marks the first time the promotion has held an event in Austin since a June 2022 card headlined by Emmett versus Calvin. Dariush will attempt to rebound from his TKO loss to Charles Oliveira in June, which snapped a 7-fight winning streak. Tsarukyan, meanwhile, tries to build off his 3rd-round TKO of Silva in June. Other contender fights on the December 2nd card include Figueiredo's bantamweight debut versus Rob Font, Kelvin Gastelum's return to welterweight versus Sean Brady, and former UFC women's bantamweight champion Miesha Tate's return versus Julia Avila. Chael Sonnen believes Francis Ngannou still somewhat fumbled the bag despite his fight against Tyson Fury. Last weekend, Francis Ngannou battled Tyson Fury in a boxing super fight. While Fury got the split decision win, Ngannou was able to drop Fury in the 3rd round. In addition to that, many fans felt as if Francis actually did enough to get his hand raised in victory. Either way, Francis received the biggest payday of his career, and he deserves a lot of praise for that. Now many are questioning what he's going to do next, with fans also pointing out that Francis's decision to leave the UFC proved to be a good one. In the eyes of Chael Sonnen, it's a bit more complex than that. While speaking to the media, he said the following: "I want to praise Francis today, but I do want the story told correctly. I think that he beat Fury. I think he exceeded expectations. I think that he deserves a lot of credit. But I've already seen the story mistold, that he played this one and didn't fumble the bag." Well, if the bag is a bag full of money, yes, he did. He absolutely did. To make believe that $10 million is somehow significantly more than he would have got on his pay-per-view participation alone against Jon Jones is incorrect. So let's see where he goes. I do want to praise him, but I praise him in the spirit of let's tell the story accurately in the way that it happened. Days after the Francis versus Fury fight, the buzz hasn't died down, largely due to the dramatic way Francis exited the UFC and his rocky relationship with Dana White. Following his impressive boxing performance, Francis has earned the respect of many skeptics, and the whole MMA community is now ribbing Dana White, calling him out for his previous comments about Francis. Ariel Helwani, who has had his own share of disagreements with Dana, didn't hold back in his response, calling Dana out for all the nonsense and falsehoods he spouted in recent months. First up, we'll play some clips of Dana discussing his thoughts on Francis's departure from the UFC. Following that, you'll hear Ariel's response, where he lays out facts about the situation that are pretty hard to dispute.
Francis just thinks that he's in a position where he's got some Conor McGregor-Mayweather fight on his hands, which he does not. Anthony Joshua called it a gimmick fight this week. You know, when asked about that fight, he's like, "I'm focused on fighting the best guys in the world. I'm not interested in the gimmick fight right now." And that's one of the big problems with boxing right now. It's all about these gimmicky type fights. And that's just not what I do here. It's not what I do.
What happened when a pro wrestler named CM Punk came over to the UFC. Did they put on those fights back then? What do you guys think? Is the BMF title, I mean, the week that they put together a BMF title that means nothing, a title fight to headline a pay-per-view because they need to have a title fight and there are no available champions, and they forced their other champion, unbeknownst to him, to fight in August in Boston. They resurrected a title that he had said would never be defended again. They don't put on those gimmick fights. You promote slap fighting. You drag two truck drivers, one from Idaho and the other from Utah. You wipe their face. There's ketchup and mustard all over their beard. And you say, please put one hand behind your back. Here's some chalk. Good luck slapping the shit out of each other. You promote that.
Demetrius Johnson has advised Francis Ngannou to focus on boxing after his fight against Tyson Fury. Last weekend, Francis Ngannou defied expectations with a competitive match against Tyson Fury, even managing to drop Fury. Despite the controversial split decision in Fury's favor, Francis' performance was undeniably impressive. Now, speculation abounds about Francis' next move, with a return to MMA among the possibilities. However, Demetrius Johnson advises against this path for Ngannou. Reflecting on the matter, he shared the following thoughts. Francis won that fight and he looked absolutely amazing. I don't think I want to see Francis do mixed martial arts. I want to see Francis box. I don't want to see him do mixed martial arts. He's beaten the best of the world in mixed martial arts. He's been a world champion. There's nothing left for him to do in that sport. I want to see him do boxing. He's going to make big money in boxing. He could fight Anthony Joshua. He could fight Deontay Wilder. The gates have just opened up. Robert Whitaker weighs in on proposed Khamzat Chimaev versus Shan Strickland matchup. Khamzat is hot off a majority decision victory over Usman, which took place on October 21st at UFC 294. Prior to the bout, UFC CEO Dana White had labeled the fight a title eliminator. Robert Whitaker, speaking on a recent episode of his podcast, shared his thoughts on the undefeated Khamzat. This is what he said. Usman's a tough fight, and Khamzat beat him. How Khamzat will go against other middleweights? It's hard to say. Styles makes fights. But he's gonna be fighting Strickland, and Strickland's got some pretty good takedown defense. Not to mention he's an awkward guy to stand with. Just the way he throws. I can see Strickland giving Khamzat a hard fight. I think it's going to be a hard fight. I don't think Khamzat's gonna run through him. Over 5 rounds, Strickland's very energy efficient. He almost gets faster during the rounds. I think Khamzat gonna have a really hard test, a really hard fight on his hands. Because if anyone's gonna last the round, it's gonna be Strickland. Would you like to see a fight between Khamzat Chimaev and Shan Strickland? Who do you think would win? Does Khamzat have a chance to become the middleweight champion? Share your thoughts in the comments below the video. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.